I'm coming to you today from our church building here, where several weeks ago one of our overhead light fixtures quit working. And then a couple weeks after that, another light fixture quit working. So we rented one of those lifts that would get us up to the height we needed and find out what the problem is. Well, it turns out that some bulbs had burned out. Now you might say, so that's usually what happens when a light quits working. But I mean, these bulbs are totally burned out. Check that out. Not only is the bulb burned out like this, but the fixture, the socket that this attaches to, is burned just like this. It's charred and really it's kind of a dangerous situation, and we're taking steps to remedy this situation. Do you ever feel burned out? Maybe at work you've been doing the same thing over and over for seems like forever, and you're ready for a change. Maybe you feel burned out in some relationship you have, or even with your favorite pastime or hobby. Burnout happens, and I know it's happened to me before. Well, what about your walk with God? Do you ever feel burned out there? Do you ever get tired of getting up every Sunday morning and heading off to Bible class and worship service? You ever get tired of praying every day, feeling like God's not even listening or answering your prayers? Do you sometimes wish you could take a break from living the Christian life because the responsibility just seems to be too much? Well, I hope not, but if you do, it's probably because you're human. Many times when we feel burned out about something, it's because the value we get out of it is not equal to the effort that we're putting into it. At least in our mind, that's what we think. When it comes to serving God, though, if we're feeling burned out, could it be that we're not looking far enough ahead? That's what happened to Elijah. He was doing the Lord's work and had just defeated the prophets of Baal, and he gets word that someone is wanting to kill him. We read in 1 Kings chapter 19, verse 3, it says, "When he heard that his life was being threatened, he arose and ran for his life." Then in verse 4, after many days on the run, Elijah was just exhausted. He sits down under a broom tree and prays that he might die. He said, "It is enough. Now, Lord, take my life, for I am no better than my fathers." Elijah was burned out. He could go on no more. He had lost sight of the bigger picture and that God was still in control. But God had more for him to do, so he provided some food for him to eat and some water for him to drink, and he strengthened him. He renewed his strength. And then he spoke to him in a still small voice or a delicate whisper. Verse 15 says, "Then the Lord said to him, 'Go, return on your way to the wilderness of Damascus.' And he went on to tell him all the things that he was to do. And Elijah listened to God. Verse 19 says, "So Elijah departed from there, and he did what the Lord told him to do." Flipping ahead now to 2 Kings chapter 2, verse 11, we see that a chariot of fire appeared with horses of fire, and Elijah went up by a whirlwind into heaven. So here we have Elijah burned out to the point of just wanting to die, to a point of being taken up into heaven without even tasting death. When we're feeling burned out, we need to remember this lesson about Elijah. God will feed us and renew our strength. We need to listen to his word. We need to depart from our sorrows and do what he has called us to do. We need to keep our minds on the heavenly reward that awaits all those who remain faithful. Yes, these lights have been burned out, but soon they'll be replaced and this room will be fully illuminated again. We too can be a source of light again when we feel burned out, but we have to be determined to live for God. In Matthew 5:14, Jesus says to us, "You are the light of the world." In verse 16, "Let your light shine before men, that they may see your good works and glorify your Father in heaven." Let your light shine. Don't get burned out on God.